Hello everyone, welcome back to the next video. In this video I will show you how you can pass or edit your iOS widget in React Native's new architecture for iOS. So let's get started. So basically what we will do is firstly we will follow this documentation to create a native module. What our app will do is we will have one label and we will have one button. As soon as you click on a button, it will save one value inside user defaults. Every time you click on the button, the value will be incremented. The reason I'm using user defaults is it is easy to get started. Instead of user defaults, you can use core data, Swift data. If you want to fetch the data from a network API, you can do that as well. Don't use something called async storage, because the widget code which we will be writing will be extremely native code. We won't be involving React Native into that. So we need some kind of a mechanism which plays nicely with both React Native as well as native iOS. That's why I have selected user defaults. So you will have to pick and choose what exactly you are trying to do with your widget, and then try to build your logic around it. If you try to use something called async storage, you will face a lot of issues. Like calling that from your widget code will be extremely difficult. But I think async storage behind the scenes uses user defaults. I'm not really sure. You can do that, your own research on that, but you don't have to stick with async storage. You can do anything with your widgets. So basically what I will do, once we create a widget, we will show that value which is stored inside user defaults in our widget as well. We will have one button as well, and then we will edit our widget to change the increment count. So currently I'm incrementing it only by 1, right? But later on I will change write the count inside our widget. So suppose if I want to increment it by 10, then every time you press the button inside your widget, the value will be incremented by 10. In your app it will still be incremented by 1. So this is most like how to pass params to your widget and build logic accordingly. So let's get started. So firstly, it's important you open this particular documentation. I'm using React Native 76. Then firstly I have created a one project using this particular command, but here this is our project name, so you can change this to whatever you feel like. Also you don't have to hardcode this version. If you just remove this dash version, whatever is the latest version, it will create a project based on that. Then again, this documentation, this tutorial is only for iOS, and the other advantage is in this particular tutorial they are also using NS user defaults, so it would be good for us. So next is we have to create a folder called specs. So inside of my React Native project I have already created a folder called specs. Inside that we have to create this TypeScript file which they are talking about. Then I have just literally copy pasted everything from the documentation, and I have removed those last two methods because those I don't want to really use it. If you want, you can keep it. And I have just changed the return type of our set item to number, and for get item it is string/null. Rest everything is copied from the documentation. Okay, once this is done, we have to add this particular code inside our package.json. So if I go to package.json, here you can see I have just copy pasted all the code inside our package.json. Once you do that, just scroll down. Then you will have to open your terminal. You will have to cd to this iOS directory and then run this particular command. Once that is done, then you will have to run this particular command. I have already ran this two command just to save time, so you will have to run this command. Once that is done, again I have just copied this app.tsx to some extent. So if you see my app.tsx, here you can see that we are firstly importing our TypeScript file. Then inside I have created one state for whatever value we get from our local storage. And here you can see, if you see, I'm not really passing any value over here. I'm only passing the key. So that's why while using it, I'm only sending the key. Same key we will have to use it on native iOS side as well. And once we get the value, I just assign it to our set value. So I'm using this inside use effect, and on button click, on press of it, we just whatever value is there, we just so the implementation for this is much more involved on the native iOS side, because we will have to write the implementation as well. So basically I fetch the data whatever is present inside user defaults whenever this method is called, and then increment it by 1 and save it again, and then send the value back to React Native side. So that's what I'm doing over here, and this is the text for our this is the text in which we are displaying the value which is stored inside user defaults. Then you will have, just like the documentation says, you will have to open the XC workspace inside Xcode. I have already opened it. Inside that you will have to create this group called native local storage. I have already created it. Inside that you will have to create a Cocoa Touch class. File, new file from template, you can just follow this, select this Cocoa Touch class and give it a name as rtn native local storage. As soon as you create it, it will create two files for you. One is header file and another is objective-c file. For objective-c file, change the extension to .mm, so it is objective-c++. And for header file, I have just copy pasted whatever they have given over here. So if you see, I have just copy pasted all this code inside our header file. Then coming back to our objective-c file, again I have copy pasted all the code from the documentation. Important thing is this particular key, this is the key which is required for user default suite name. Don't get confused with the key which we are passing from our app. This key is for fetching the count which is present inside user defaults. This particular key which you see is for the suite name of user default. So if you do have little bit of knowledge of native iOS, typically you might have used something like user defaults.standard, but we can't use user defaults.standard because we want to share this user defaults on both native iOS side as well as on the widget kit side. That's why we have to give it a suite name. And what typically I do is, for suite name I typically write group dot whatever is your bundle identifier. So if you don't know what your bundle identifier, you can just go to sign in and capabilities over here. So I will just select my team and I will just change the bundle identifier as well to com.rnapp, but you can change it to whatever you feel like. I just try to keep things simple, that's why I have created it as com.rnapp. Okay, so that's what I have done over here. Then I have created this interface as well. Again, this I have just copy pasted it from the documentation. So if you go in the documentation, they have just see they are using some different suite name. That's fine, I will just use mine and we will have to repeat. So do remember this because we need to use this in multiple places. Then I have just copied this code from documentation, all this code which you see over here. Okay, then I don't have all these 4 methods, I only have these 2 methods. That's what I have overridden, and here we are just sending whatever is present inside user defaults. For set item, I have just manipulated it a little because we are not accepting a value from React Native side, we are only accepting a key. So once we get a key, we fetch the value from our user defaults, then we increment it by 1, then again save it to user defaults and then return the value. Okay, so pretty simple till here. Then what you will have to do is just go to file, new, target, select iOS, search for widget extension, click next, and here just give whatever name you feel like to your widget. So I will just give it as rnapp widget. Now I have unchecked this include live activity as well as include control because I don't really want this, and then I'll just click on finish and it will create the widget for us. Then here you have to click on this activate as well. So here you can see it has created this widget for us. Now the next thing before I forget is go again to your app, select in target, select your app, click on plus capability. Here you will have to select app groups, and here you will just have to give it some name. So typically whatever is my bundle identifier, I give it that. So just click on this plus button and you will give it something like group dot whatever is your bundle identifier, and I'll just click on OK, and here you can see it has created this for me. Then you will have to select your extension, again click on this plus capability button, and here you will have to select app group again, and here just here it is already showing what all options we have. So we have already created group.com.rnapp. just search for it if you're, so here you can see it is showing it for me. Sometimes it doesn't show, then you can just click on this plus button and give it the same name. So I'll just check this, and here you can see we have this enabled for our widget as well. Now coming to the widget code, firstly I will go to this rnapp widget. Okay, I will just disable this canvas option, I don't really want this. So here you can see this is my entire code. Now this is the starting point, simple entry. Now what we are storing inside user defaults, we are storing a count, right? So that's what I will add it over here because I want to display the count. If you want, you can remove this date as well, but I'll keep it just for simplicity sake, I don't want to confuse you guys too much. Now where is this simple entry used? It is used over here. So we'll have to provide the count value, and from where we'll get the count value? From user default. So for that we'll create a separate function, but for now I will just name it as get value. Okay, so I will just copy this, and simple entry is used over here as well, so I'll just paste it over here. And here I will keep things simple. I will just comment this out, entire thing. It takes an array of entries, so I'll just do something like this. I'll just copy this particular part and I'll paste it over here. And for date it is dot now, and for policy it is never. Okay, and for configuration, yeah, we are already passing the configuration. We need to pass the count as well, right? So I'll just copy this again and I'll paste it over here. Now we have to create this get value method. So I have already created a native iOS tutorial for this, so I'll just copy it from that. Sorry about this, because it's very difficult for me to remember all the code. So I'll just copy this and I'll explain it to you. It's pretty simple. So I'll just paste it over here. So here you can see we are fetching values from user default. Now what is our suite name? So in case if you forgot, our suite name is group.com.rnapp. so I'll just copy this. Okay, and I'll paste it over here. And what was our key name? So the key was my key, right? So which was inside our app.tsx, so I will have to use it over here as well. Okay, so this error is gone. Now here you might get this error for this. This is only for preview purpose, so I can just comment this out, or if you want you can just pass some random count value to this. That is fine as well. Okay, now let's see what's the other step which I have done. We have to change the UI a little. So here you can see I have changed the UI a little, so I'll just copy this and I'll explain it to you. So you'll have to scroll up a little and I'll change this to whatever I have copied. So this is our entry count, the value which is stored inside user defaults. And here how much we want to increment by, right? Like I told you, we will be passing a parameter to widget. So this is that particular parameter, and that's why we require this configuration app intent, which is present by default, so we don't have to worry about it. And here I have one button which will increment it. If you haven't set this increment by default it will be 1, but if you have changed it to suppose 10, then it will be increment by 10. Now you can't just add one click listener to this button. That's not how a button works inside widget. You have to provide an app intent. So for that we'll have to create this particular increment intent function. So here you can see it takes a count. It takes that particular count, how much you want to increment by. So we get this from this particular value, right? We haven't defined this yet. I'll show you that in a bit, but for now just follow along. So I'll just create a new file, a new empty file, and I will just name it as increment intent.swift. And again I'll just copy it from my iOS project, and then I'll explain it to you. So I'll just copy everything. Okay, and I'll paste it over here. So again we are not doing much. So we are basically extending from app intent. It requires a title. What is our user defaults key? It is my key, right? So I'll just go over here. I'll just copy this and I'll paste it over here. And here it takes a parameter called increment count, because we are sending that particular parameter from this particular thing, right? So if you see over here, we are sending this increment count. That's why we have to write it like this. If we don't get the parameter, here you can see I'm initializing it to 1, and if we have it, then I'm just assigning it to our increment count. Then once you click on this button, automatically this perform method gets called. This is overridden from this app intent, and here you can see again we get this user defaults. We want our suite name. So our suite name was group.com.rnapp, right? So I'll just copy this and I'll paste it over here. Okay, then here is our current value, here is our new value, because we are incrementing it by whatever count we get. So suppose I want to increment it by 10, so and the current value is 5. Once I click on the button, the value will not change it to 6, it will change it to 15, and then we just save it to user defaults. Okay, so this is done. Now we need to tell our widget how to get that particular increment by. So for this I think we have to go to app intent. Yeah, so here inside app intent we have to write something like this. So if I just go to this app intent, here you can see it also takes a parameter called favorite emoji. I don't want that. I want it to be something like this, increment by. It takes an increment count, and by default the value is 1. I think that should be it. One more thing is, like I have noticed that many of the times when we try to run an application, we get a metro bundler issue, which I'm not sure. Maybe by the time you watch it, the issue might get resolved. Okay, also one more thing, here you will have to select your app again, otherwise it will select your widget. Okay, let me check. Okay, so this issue is also resolved. I will just do Control I. Okay, and here we are getting this issue again. This is not really necessary. This was part of this particular preview which we were using. So again, if you want, you can keep it. I'll just keep it just for the sake of it. So here our now the value is increment by, right? So I'll just change it to 1, and here also I will change it to 1. If you want, you can use different value, but this is just for that preview feature which we have. I think that should be it. Now let me run my application and get back to you. Here you can see I got this particular thing which it failed, but that's fine. Here you can see it is saying that too many open files in system. Here also inside my metro bundler it is saying too many open files. To resolve this, all you have to do is just do npm install. Okay, also you can close this metro bundler because now it is useless, and we just do npm install or yarn, whatever you use it. I think this issue is because of this package.json changes, and I think they should have mentioned in the React Native documentation about doing an npm install again. But anyways, then I can just run yarn iOS. Now once this is done, hopefully there are no errors, and then I will show you guys the output. Okay guys, so here is the output. I have this button. If I click on it, here you can see we are incrementing the count inside user defaults and showing it inside our text component. Now what I will do is I will close this app, long press on it, click on edit home screen, click edit, add widget, search for your app. I'll just type rn app. So here is our widget. I'll just click on it. There are different views. Our widget is available in different views. Select any one of this. I'll just select this one. I'll click on done, and here you can see the increment count is 1. Okay, I wrote it twice, that's why over here it is showing it as empty. So if I just show it to you, you can just remove this. This is not really necessary, but yeah, so ignore this second label for now. So if you see what was the count inside our rn app, it was 6. That's what it is displaying over here as well. Now if I increment it, so the increment count is 1, right? That's why it is incrementing by 1, 7, 8, 9. Now I will just long press on our widget, click edit widget, and here you can see we are getting the increment count. So I will just change it to 2. I'll click on done, and here you can see increment count is 2. Now if I click on increment me, the value changes to level 13. Now here given that I'm calling this inside use effect, that's why it is not showing me the change. But if I quickly reload my app and if I go back, here you can see it is showing 13. So that was what the value we were displaying inside user defaults as well, so inside our widget, sorry. So yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching. Bye.